Welcome everyone to round number 5 here, our final round of Swiss here at the Winter Challenge 5 tournament here at Secretary Place in Pico Rivera, California. I am Jesus Coronel once again. Our opponents are going to be Nicholas Stavrakis and Hector Vargas. Now Nick, you might have already seen on the commentator's desk, but here is the signature Terra Fairy team, Mono Fairy, as you would like to call it, is Zacian, Iron Valiant, Azumarill, Fluttermane, Grimmsnarl, and Regidrago. Now, you might be wondering, why is Regidrago in the team as an all-fairy type? Well, it's Terra Fairy. It's a gym leader. He's the fairy-type gym leader here. And Hector on the other side is going to be running that Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Chanpao, Raging Bolt, Amoonguss, Calyrex Ice Rider, and Farigiraf. Something we might have sounded a little earlier from Dina, but it's a different variant altogether, so... Once again, another one of those balance versus whatever you think Nick's running. And so it's just like, when you know your opponent has all fairy types, what do you do? Because, well, Zacian is one of the more underrated restricted Pokemon in the format because, well, although its Intrepid Sword abilities once per game, it can still hit ridiculously hard with that Behemoth Blade attack, especially against the ice types of Calyrex and Chanpao. And we're going to be seeing Hector, from Nick's perspective, lead into the Urshifu with Amoonguss core, while Nick is going to go ahead and lead the Fluttermane plus Regidrago. Fluttermane going to go ahead and activate his Photosynthesis ability for that speed booster. And with that, yeah, there you go. That's probably the easiest the easiest move you could possibly do into both of these Pokemon, which is like click Thunder Wave and do a choice card version of making sure your Regidrago outspeeds both of Hector's Pokemon, and then launch out a powerful Dragon Energy from this Regidrago to hopefully knock out both of Hector's Pokemon before they can even attack. Normally you see this done with other Pokemon, but this is just as good because, well, when you're able to output damage like this, with the combination of Fluttermane plus Regidrago, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And Thunderwave does connect onto the Urshifu. That was the most important part. Because now, Urshifu's going to be cut in half, meaning that Choice Star's probably going to be like most mitigated here. Regidrago does get a full power Dragon Energy. It does not knock out the Amoonguss, unfortunately, so it probably will get a Spore off just before it can go down. But who did it Spore? Should it have went for it? There's a bit of Life Orb recoil onto the Regidrago, and Spore goes into the Regidrago. In comes the Calyrex Ice Rider now from Hector, and this probably means the Trick Room's coming soon for Hector, and now it's kind of up to Nick to potentially decide how do you want to play into this Trick Room, because the Fluttermane's still under threat of sleep, so I would think you would go for a Moonblast into the Amoonguss slot, but Amoonguss can also just protect. And so Hector, I think it's the easiest move to do is to just click Thunder Wave. Click Trick Room, excuse me. With all both these Pokemon from Nick being speedy as they are, Fluttermane choosing to go for the Thunder Wave onto the Calyrex Ice Rider to make sure that it potentially could get paralyzed this turn. Spore goes into the Fluttermane now, so it's going to take a nice little rest. Regidrago took its first turn of sleep, and Calyrex gets off the Trick Room. And this is where things go south for Nick, because with Trick Room up, you just gave Calyrex the necessary speed drop to now launch Glacial Lances before Spores come out, and Amoonguss actually going to switch out into Chanpao, so in comes the Sword of Ruin boost too, so it's going to be a lot of devastating damage from Hector's Calyrex Ice Rider. Regidrago does wake up though to get a Protect, but that's still not going to be enough to save the Fluttermane from its eventual downfall. Fluttermane will take its mandatory first turn of sleep, and in comes Glacial Lance. Never mind. Okay, that's a paralyzed Calyrex, so that's one turn and Trick Room stalled. Yeah, I wonder what the Regidrago does here, because I think even if you do click Terra Fairy to make sure you don't immediately go down to Glacial Lance, I'm not sure if you have enough in the tank to tank another Glacial Lance. To take a Glacial Lance, because what you have Sword of Ruin from the Chanpao in play, 3 turns of Trick Room, and you just protect it to wake up, so is it worth it to go for the Terrestrialization with Fairy if you're Regidrago, or do you just try to launch, or do you just, yeah, I think you, oh, actually double protect on top of Regidrago, and it does not get it, unfortunately, so Unless the Calyrex remains paralyzed, or the Flutter Wing takes a second turn of sleep, this Calyrex is going to run rampant, and it takes another paralysis. This Calyrex is just getting nothing accomplished, and here comes an Ice Spinner into this Flutter Wing, still sleeping, and it goes down to a single hit. So that's another turn of Trick Room wasted for this Calyrex Ice Rider, and it's definitely not going to be appreciated the other paralysis because, well, as long as the paralysis remains onto this Calyrex, it's going to have to play a lot of mind games on whether or not it gets off an attack with that Glacial Lance. It still hasn't gotten the move yet in this Trick Room. Regidrago can protect again because the last time it failed. And Azumarill is actually a pretty good Pokemon into this Calyrex because it has like nothing to hit it like effectively with. You know, Glacial Lance is resisted. Azumarill is a pretty respectable HP stat, and another paralysis from this. Oh, is that 4? Is that 3 paralysis turns for this Calyrex Ice Rider? No, it's 4. Because every time you try to attack, it couldn't get it off, and there is a liquidation landing onto the Calyrex Ice Rider, and unfortunately, just it takes it pretty well. Champao tried to go for another Ice Spinner onto the Regidrago, so definitely a lot of stress to be covered because this Calyrex has not been able to move since they started up Trick Room. And oh my god, another paralysis. Are you meaning to tell me Calyrex paralyzed the entirety of Trick Room? Oh, that is just insane. Another Regidrago, Dragon Energy gets launched. Jump out of the Rogue Slash. Calyrex just cannot believe it couldn't get an attack off at all in the Trick Room. That is unbelievable. Champao probably is going to take the Regidrago down with it. Oh no, it just goes after the Azumarill. And that's not a lot of damage. Trick Room does end now, so Azumarill and Regidrago will not appreciate the speed advantage that Champao has, but unfortunately, well, actually no. There's a Rage Shatter in play from Amoonguss. So I was about to say Aqua Jet the Champao is probably the best thing you could do. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's the best thing you can do because, yeah, you got Terrifier, Terror Blast from Azumarill just waiting to knock out the Champao or Amoonguss depending on who Hector decides to Rage Powder. Or not. Got a bit of audience reaction from the Trick Room, stalling from the paralysis as well. And hope everybody. Oh yeah, you get paralyzed 4 turns in a row. That probably signals your team is probably gonna lose anyway against all of Nick's remaining Pokemon. And yeah, Nicholas Stavrakis wins game number 1. I don't know what I had to say because like none of those paralysis happened, and Nick would probably be staring at a +2 Calyrex Ice Rider and just face devastating damage throughout. But unfortunately, that Calyrex got paralyzed 4 turns in a row and just was not able to do a thing. And so it's just like, you know what Hector wants with the Trick Room. It's just like, if you go for the Trick Room, do you have any way to avert the Thunder Wave? Because that Thunder Wave was honestly the only reason Nick was able to win game number 1, and that does signal a lot of bad things that come for Hector if he doesn't find a way to break through that Flutter Mane, because the fact that Thunder Wave landed on the Urshifu allowed Regidrago to launch Dragon Energy for a knockout onto the Urshifu Rapid Strike, and you weren't able to knock out the Amoonguss, but the Amoonguss Amoonguss not done. The only Pokemon that did not pull its weight was Calyrex, and that was because it got paralyzed 4 turns in a row. Yeah, I just have a really hard time thinking of advice for either trainer because, well, it came out of paralysis and nothing more to be said. Alright, here we go. Game number 2 here between Nick and Hector. And Hector going to lead the Calyrex Ice Rider with Amoonguss, while Nick going to change things up and not bring the Regidrago immediately, instead going Flutter Mane Grimmsnarl. And the thing that's interesting about this Crystal is that his attacking move is Crunch, so yeah, you probably have to Rage Powder the Thunder Wave away from the Calyrex this time around, because you don't want to at least be under the threat of Paralysis stunning you out for the rest of the game. And but I mean, that's connect with the Thunder Wave onto the Amoonguss, which would have loved to hit Calyrex this time around, but now Calyrex kind of free to go for the Trick Room again, or just launch Glacial Lance at will, and no, it's just going to get Trick Room up first, so Trick Room first, Glacial Lance later. That's the game plan. Alright, in comes the Terrestrialization. I believe this is from Hector. And if it is Hector, okay, it is that Calyrex to Fire type to make sure Crunch is no longer super effective. Rage Rider does successfully get off again from this Amoonguss, and now we see Misty Terrain come out, so that's a neat tech from this Grimmstar to make sure Spore is no longer an issue against all of Nick's Pokemon. Here comes the Glacial Lance. This is True Reflect. It doesn't knock out either Pokemon, that's still a lot of damage to both. Moonblast launch into the Amoonguss does little. And so I believe a double knockout's incoming, or at least one knockout into each Pokemon with Grimmstar and Fluttermane with the Glacial Lance in play. And it just comes down to whether or not you are fine taking it, because while Calyrex is going to get stronger with every move it gets, yeah, you can protect. You just need to set up one of your back Pokemon in the back, like a Azumarill, because now with the Terra Fire, you are no longer neutral to Liquidation from Amoonguss. However, the Glacial Lance will connect after Pollen Puff from Amoonguss chips down a little bit, and that's going to be a Chilling A boost to the Calyrex Ice Rider. So 3 turns left. No, I think it's 2 turns left on the Trick Room and 3 turns of Misty Terrain here. And Nick's going to go ahead and Terastallize the Azumarill, I believe, to Fire. And yes, it will be Azumarill to Fire. Fluttermane tries to get a double protect, fails, unfortunately. And now, let's see what the Amoonguss can't do, because it got paralyzed this time around. And Terra Blast gets launched into the Amoonguss, so it's also important to note that he is real slower than the Calyrex Ice Rider, which will matter in this last turn of Trick Room for Hector, if he has to protect it or not. Glacial Lance comes out, it will knock out the Fluttermane. And give another Chilling A boost to the Calyrex. And so Nick is down to his last 2 Pokemon, and that second Pokemon is indeed that Zacian. Yeah, both Fluttermane and Grimmstar both went down earlier, and now comes the last Pokemon for Nick. It's going to be that Zacian Crown, and Shanpao is the next Pokemon that comes out for Hector. Reflect is still up, and the thing that I believe Azumarill's got to be worried about is underspeeding. Yeah, you just got to protect the Calyrex if you're Hector, and then I believe Protect's also going to happen to get out of your own Trick Room to make sure Azumarill isn't exactly threatening the rest of your Pokemon, and it's now high horsepower food, which is the worst part about this. Well, that is unless you go for the Aqua Jet, and unfortunately I don't think Aqua Jet is enough to knock out anything in the matter. So, yeah, I think Shanpao's fine launching any attack towards the Zacian, especially that Sacred Sword, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage thanks to the Reflect level setup. Here's the Behemoth Blade into the Shanpao, which will put it down to Focus Sash with a very unnecessary crit. High horsepower lands on the Azumarill, it does knock it out, so that's all but the Zacian knocked out for Nick, and I think we're going to game 3. I think. The Misty Terrain's also gone, so... Unless, of course, somehow Sacred Sword gets a lot of damage on the Cowards. I think even with the critical hit, it's not going to be enough to knock it out, so, Sacred Sword comes out again from the Zacian, trying to jump out into the Zacian. Sacred Sword back into the Calyrex. Does not even do half. High horsepower lands. We got a game free. We have a game free, ladies and gentlemen, and this time Hector didn't even have to reveal his last Pokemon, so, each side had their respective moments, and now... Game 3, so... I think what Hector did there was correct. Make sure the Thunder Wave does not go in the Calyrex, so you don't play the game of, okay, let me just see if I can get an attack off. Oh, wait a minute, I can't. Because... with being able, when you are able to redirect the Thunder Wave away from the Calyrex, then you're able to at least launch off your Dragon Energy from Regidrago. It's like I think this is your best damage output into this team that Hector has, and it's just like. What do you need to do against Trick Room? Because you have like almost nothing into the Trick Room core of Glacial Lance from Nick's side of the field, and so here we go, game number 3, our final game of the Swiss round of the portion. And it's going to be a Moongus Calyrex once again from Hector and once again from Nicholas. It's going to be that game 1 lead of Watermain Regidrago. And I think the thing you gotta be wary of if you're Nick is once again the threat of Glacial Lance, but more importantly the threat of Rage Powder, because, well, if you Rage Powder, you can't run away the Calyrex again, and that's the issue I believe that Nick's gonna have to be dealing with, at least for these next couple of turns, at least for the immediacy of the lead from Hector, and time to see what's gonna happen in this turn, and it is gonna be a Terrestrialization from Hector's side of the field, and I believe I know what this is. It's gonna be the Amoonguss. Oh, hey, wait a minute, hold on, the Amoonguss of water. And I believe the Terrestrialization is more of a future-proofing thing against the Zoomerl in the back, because Terra Blast Fire definitely was a threat. And another Rage Powder comes out, so, and the only thing I could think of the Terrestrialization was 4, but I don't even think it was necessary. Moonblast. Now it's neutral against this Amoonguss. Regidrago wants his Dragon Energy. This should not knock out the Calyrex. Yeah, not even close. I mean, it got close, but not that close to knocking it out. Amoonguss unfortunately had to waste a Terra, and it's knocked out in the process, so this Trick Room needs to count for Hector if it was the choice of the matter. If it was Glacial Lance, okay, I was about to say, if it was Glacial Lance, then you are still at a speed disadvantage, but that's why you play Trick Room. This is an interesting situation because Chien-Pao coming in here is not ideal in Trick Room. Its only purpose here is sort of ruin boosting the Calyrex's Glacial Lances, which is going to be a lot to ask for, especially when you have to stall out this Trick Room if you're Nick. And so I think there is an obvious move that the Regidrago can do here, which is Terra Fairy, hope you live a Glacial Lance, and then launch on either Dragon Meteor into the Regidrago to make sure you knock it out, into the Calyrex to make sure you knock it out, or just go Earth Power into the Champ Map and break its focus size. And I don't think the latter is ideal. I think you're better off Protect Stalling. I don't think that's exactly the best thing to be doing here. I think, yeah, it's like use Terra Fairy, hope to live an attack, knock out the Calyrex, and then depending on what Hector has, it's going to be a lot to ask for in terms of a comeback opportunity. And here comes that Terra Fairy on Regidrago. And this is not a popular terrestrialization under the Regidrago, by the way. It's mostly just been Ghost Steel or the occasional Ground or Ghost. Or, no, not Ground. Yeah, it's Ghost, yeah. Glacial Lance comes out. It's only sort of Ruin boosted from this Chien-Pao, so it will hit the Protect of the Flutter Mane, unfortunately. I think it was a double Protect that did get. Glacial Lance! Still knocks it out. It still knocks out Regidrago in a single hit, and yeah, this might go south really quickly because now Calyrex the +1 attack boost with that Sword of Ruin. Ice Spinner hits the double protect of the Flutter Mane, but there is a lot to be desired for Nicholas's Pokemon in the back, which is still going to be a Zacian and a Azumarill. So Azumarill is next. And with Azumarill being next, the best thing you can do is potentially hit the I believe, yeah, it's gotta be the play route because Liquidation's not strong. Wait, which one's stronger? Or you just switch out the Chien-Pao to make sure you don't get hit by a knockout on your own accord. And in comes Urshifu as Hector's last Pokemon of round number 5. Liquidation is slower. It knocks out Calyrex, which is really good for Nick because Calyrex only now means that all of Hector's Pokemon remaining have no resistance to Flutter Mane's Moonblast. Urshifu also goes down. And I think Nick might just win this game actually against his Chien-Pao in the back. Yeah, it's just Chien-Pao left for Hector, and I think Nick Stavrakis has a chance to go in the top cut. I think he's 2-2. Last I checked, yes, it's a 2-2 and a 2-2 battle. Hector's gonna hang it up. Nicholas Stavrakis of Miracles is gonna go ahead and win round number 5 and advance to 3-2 and maybe get to the top cut. Maybe. Literally everything went right for Nick. I mean, from game 1 and onwards. Terra, the Mono Fairy team, you never see it like this ever, and that was the best interpretation of how Nick was able to adapt heading into game number 3. And I think that would have been the same adaptation had he lost game number 1 immediately. So, yeah. That's going to be it for Swiss rounds. Once we get all the results in and all the teams checked, we'll be right back for top cut of Winter Challenge 5. Don't go away.